The restaurant's back corridor was narrow and dim, a place meant only for staff and deliveries. The smell of disinfectant mixed with grease clung to the air, and the hum of the kitchen faded as Emma Carter stepped into the employee bathroom to collect herself. It had been a long shift. Too many customers, too many demands, and not enough time to breathe. She splashed cold water on her face, reminding herself that she only had 2 hours left. 2 hours, and then she could go home. The door slammed shut behind her. She turned to see Ryan Cole, the floor manager, standing between her and the exit. His expression was tight, irritated, the same look he wore whenever something didn't go exactly his way. Emma's stomach knotted. She hadn't done anything wrong, she knew that. But experience had taught her that fairness didn't always matter. "What was that out there?" Ryan asked, his voice low but sharp, smiling at customers like that, making scenes. Emma tried to answer calmly. She explained that a man at table 12 had grabbed her wrist, that she had only pulled away to continue serving. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly at her sides. Ryan scoffed. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. "Excuses," he said. "You embarrass the staff, you embarrass me. This isn't a charity. People would kill for your job." The words stung more than she expected. Emma stared at the tiled floor, counting her breaths. She needed this job. Rent was due next week. Health insurance barely covered what it was supposed to. She thought of all the times she'd covered extra shifts, all the times she'd stayed quiet when she should have spoken up. Ryan continued, pacing the small room as if he owned it. He reminded her how easy it would be to cut her hours, how replaceable she was, how one complaint, real or invented, could end her employment. The bathroom felt smaller with every sentence, the walls pressing in as he blocked the door without even seeming to notice. Emma nodded once, slowly. She didn't argue. Arguing had never helped before. Silence was a shield, thin but familiar. When Ryan finally finished, he leaned in and warned her to fix her attitude before walking out, leaving the door swinging behind him. For a moment, Emma didn't move. She listened to her own breathing, uneven and shallow, and pressed her palms against the sink until the cool porcelain grounded her. Her reflection looked composed, professional, no sign of the humiliation burning beneath the surface. She straightened her apron and stepped back into the hallway, returning to her tables as if nothing had happened. Customers smiled. Plates clinked. The restaurant carried on, unaware of what had just taken place behind a locked door. What no one in that room knew was that this night wasn't over yet, and what Ryan Cole didn't know, couldn't have imagined, was that someone who loved Emma deeply, someone trained to notice danger and injustice, was already nearby. Daniel Carter stepped into the restaurant just after 8, the bell above the door chiming softly. He paused for a moment, letting his eyes adjust, automatically mapping exits and sightlines out of habit he'd never fully lost. The place was busy but controlled, families in booths, couples leaning close, the low murmur of conversation floating beneath soft music. It should have felt ordinary. Instead, something felt off. He spotted Emma near the far side of the dining room, carrying a tray of drinks. She moved smoothly, professionally, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. When she laughed at a customer's joke, it sounded practiced. Daniel knew that sound. He'd heard it before, after difficult deployments, when she tried to make everything seem normal. He took a seat at the counter without calling her over. He wanted to watch first. Years of training had taught him patience, how rushing in without understanding could make things worse. As he sipped his coffee, he noticed the manager, tall, well-dressed, walking with the confidence of someone who believed the room belonged to him. The man said something to a busser, then glanced toward Emma with open irritation. Emma passed close enough to Daniel that he caught a glimpse of her face. Her eyes were red, as if she'd recently wiped away tears. Her shoulders were tense, pulled slightly inward. That was enough. When her shift finally slowed, Daniel waited until she stepped outside for a short break. The night air was cool, carrying the smell of rain and asphalt. She looked surprised to see him, then relieved, her guard dropping for just a second before she quickly rebuilt it. "Hey," she said, forcing a smile. "You're home early." He hugged her gently, not pushing, not demanding answers. "Talk to me," he said quietly. At first, she tried to minimize it. Just a rough moment, a misunderstanding. But as they stood beneath the dim parking lot lights, the words came out in pieces, the bathroom, the accusations. The way the manager had blocked the door and reminded her how easily she could be replaced. She never called it fear, but Daniel heard it anyway. He felt the familiar surge of anger rise in his chest, sharp and immediate. He pushed it down just as quickly. Anger without control was useless. He had learned that lesson the hard way. "Did he touch you?" he asked, keeping his voice calm. "No," she said. "But it didn't feel right." Daniel nodded. That answer told him everything he needed to know. He watched her go back inside, her posture straightening as she put her professional mask back on. For a moment, he considered confronting the manager immediately. Instead, he chose a different approach, one that wouldn't make Emma's life harder. He went back in and asked for the manager by name. When Ryan Cole approached, wearing a polite, practiced smile, Daniel stood and offered his hand. "My name is Daniel Carter," he said evenly. "I'm Emma's husband." Ryan's smile faltered just slightly. The fallout didn't come with raised voices or dramatic confrontations. It arrived quietly, methodically, the way consequences often do when handled the right way. 2 days after Daniel's visit, corporate representatives showed up unannounced during the lunch rush. They wore neutral expressions and carried tablets instead of clipboards, asking for private conversations with staff members one by one. The atmosphere in the restaurant shifted immediately, tension buzzing beneath the usual clatter of dishes. Emma was nervous when she was called into the office, but this time the door stayed open. She spoke slowly, carefully, describing exactly what had happened without exaggeration or emotion. When she finished, one of the representatives nodded and thanked her for her honesty. No one questioned her integrity. No one told her to be quiet or grateful. That alone felt like a small victory. Security footage confirmed timelines. Other employees, emboldened by the investigation, shared similar experiences, sharp words behind closed doors, threats disguised as performance management, moments that made them feel trapped and disposable. A pattern emerged, undeniable and well documented. By the end of the week, Ryan Cole was gone. There was no announcement, no farewell. His name simply disappeared from the schedule. His office cleared before the next shift began. Word spread quickly, not with celebration, but with a collective exhale. The restaurant felt lighter, as if something heavy had been lifted from the walls themselves. Emma was offered options, a promotion, a transfer, paid time off if she needed it. She chose the transfer. Starting fresh mattered more to her than climbing higher in a place that still carried uncomfortable memories. Her decision was met with respect, not pressure. That evening, she and Daniel sat on their small apartment balcony, city lights flickering in the distance. The noise of traffic below blended into a steady hum. Emma leaned back in her chair, wrapped in a light sweater, finally allowing herself to relax. "I didn't think anyone would take it seriously," she admitted. "I thought it would just get worse." Daniel listened, his hand resting over hers. "It only gets worse when people stay silent," he said. "You didn't." She thought about that, about how powerless she had felt in that bathroom, how alone. And yet here she was, heard, believed, protected by more than just one person. Protected by a system that, when pushed the right way, actually worked. The next week, at her new location, Emma noticed something different. Managers checked in without hovering. Breaks were respected. When a customer crossed a line, another staff member stepped in without hesitation. It wasn't perfect, but it was better, safer. Daniel returned to his training shortly after, his time at home always too brief. When they said goodbye, Emma hugged him tightly, gratitude and love mixing with something stronger, confidence. This chapter of her life didn't end.